This is a breakdown of the rig that I created for a Deinonychus, and what I started out with first was I modeled the geometry based on some side and front view pictures that I have that I was able to get out of some books, and so that's what created the geometry you see here. Everything are subdivision surfaces, so there's different levels of detail that can be achieved from that. From this geometry, I created a series of locators, which can be seen here as these green locators, and this is what I use to determine the joint placement for the joints that I was going to put into the geometry and make it all work out correctly. So I placed all these so that then I could just snap the joints to them in the future. This was an easy way to do it so that I could get up and into the model and make sure that everything was exactly where I wanted it to be placed, and I could go around in 3D space and make sure that everything was good. All these things are on different layers so that it can be easily toggled on and off. So from that, I'll just put these back on as template layers, and from that I created the joints and controllers and everything that you see here. Basically, everything is set up in a hierarchy. We have the root node, which is actually the translate thing down here, so that the entire rig can be moved around. Next down, I've got a group for just the arms to be able to move around within this main root node, so you can actually just, you can put the character wherever it needs to be based on its initial placement. All these things, if you zero out their translations, it goes back to normal. Same thing with the root node. If I move it anywhere, I can put it back to 0 with no problems. Everything seems to scale correctly if needed, if you need to do that. So the root node does that by itself. The arms within the actual translation can be scaled as well. Other than that, everything else is just based off of controllers. So I'll turn these back on to where you can see what's happening. I have this controller right here, which has no scaling abilities, but it can be translated and rotated. And basically what it does, it's the chest node, and from here everything else is locked in, because this is these are IK handles and pull vector locators, and so from within this I can actually move the object around and get kind of motion that I need to with that while maintaining everything else. So this would be a good way to get the chest movement. Same thing with rotation. You get the same kind of shoulder movement that that would be good in cycling animations. I have this scapula, I guess, and collarbone just to the chest node right now, because I'm not exactly sure how I would set it up to where biologically it could be correct with the humerus. I don't know if it's actually called the humerus on the Deinonychus, but the similar bone to a human structure, where if you move this up, then everything else moves accordingly. So I just left it as the chest so that it can be animated if need be. So it's not necessarily automatic. There would be some collisions, like right here, if it's not animated correctly, since there's no actual restrictions and things like that as far as bones for the individual pieces. But they're there to make it look better, so it's not just arms. It gives it more of a feel of that this is an actual creature. We could just turn it off to where you just see a template, which helps too. So that's the chest node. There's also these locators, which can only be translated. which would show where the elbow is pointed. All these things, if they're zeroed out, they go back to their original locations. So that's handy. The IK handle controllers are these little weird diamond shaped things, and they're able to be translated, moved around in space, and again the pull vector as normal moves that way. They can also be everything, again, if it's zeroed out, it goes back to the original space. It can be rotated, which rotates the hand. These three bones here, or these three pieces of geometry that are the first part of the bones in the hand, are parented, or they're actually bound to the wrist joints, so that that connection is made, so that this rotation can happen. All these, all the things within the IK handle are good to where, again, if they're zeroed out, they go back to zero. I mean, they go back to the original placement. If you turn off if you make the IK to FK switch here, which I have going into the IK handle, the controller, I made an attribute for this controller to affect the IK FK switch. So if you select that and make it go to 0 here, then all the bones and everything become FK. I had a bunch of controllers set up for FK, but I was having some difficulty getting them to work correctly with the IK, and it was making a huge hierarchical mess and caused a lot of problems. I didn't want to have a bunch of like dual sets of bones just to have FK when I can turn it on and off this way. So as you can see, I can move the arm around with the FK, and then at the end, say if I wanted to place this somewhere else and have the arm move to it, then I just turn on the IK, and it creates the information that needs to go in between that, or the calculations. Within this IK controller, I also have this attribute called reach grasp, and this goes from 1 to -1, 1 being a reach, which basically splays out the fingers like so. So this is a 1 value, but then -1 brings them all the way in. So then animators, if they wanted to, rotate the hand around and have it reach out, they can easily do that with this set-driven key here. It's just one extra thing to make things easier, so that you don't actually have to mess with the FK on every individual joint there when you've got this easy thing. When you zero it out, it takes it back to the default kind of resting position that has been made for this rig. So as you can see, it has pretty much all the controls that I would need in order to make a believable cycle. I think I was really happy with how this whole movement came out. It's just kind of neat whenever you get things set up and then you move a couple things around, and you get this real organic feel as to, if you move your shoulders around and your hands aren't moving, then you'll get, this elbow movement and things like that. So it was really interesting to be able to create something that does that. Same thing with these IK controllers and hands. If you move them around, you get a pretty good estimation of a real creature. Same thing with the elbow placement. So that's basically the rig, and